What if dragons were dinosaurs remembered? Picture a campfire in a dark valley, smoke curling into the night. Around it, villagers whisper about a beast with scales like armor, eyes like lanterns, and breath that sears flesh. A dragon. Every culture has one. But what if those weren't just bedtime stories? What if dragons were dinosaurs remembered? Start with the bones. For thousands of years, people dug into hillsides and found massive skeleton skulls with teeth longer than daggers, ribs big as rafters. They had no paleontology textbooks, no museums to file the bones away. To them, these were the remains of monsters. Chinese farmers found dragon bones and ground them into medicine. Greeks saw fossil skulls and imagined griffins. In North America, tribes pointed to strange stone bones jutting from cliffs and wove them into stories of thunder lizards. It makes sense. When you find the jaw of a tyrannosaur, you don't think extinct reptile. You think dragon. And when the memory is passed down, retold for centuries, it grows wings, breathes fire, and stalks the imagination. But here's the eerie twist. What if it wasn't just fossils? What if some dinosaurs' small populations survived longer than we think? The coelacanth? A fish thought extinct for 65 million years, turned up alive in 1938. Crocodiles today are basically unchanged for 200 million years. Why couldn't a dragon-like reptile survive in remote valleys, caves, or jungles just long enough for humans to encounter them? Myths line up too neatly to dismiss. The Chinese lung dragons that coil through clouds, linked to rain and rivers. European fire breathers, hoarding treasure in caves. The feathered serpents of Mesoamerica, like Quetzalcoatl, different continents, different peoples yet. The same image of giant-scaled beasts with terrible power. Shared hallucination or shared experience. And the fire how? Do you explain that? Maybe not literal fire, but something close. Some beetles today shoot boiling chemicals from their bodies. The bombardier beetle. Some snakes spit venom. Scale that up in a reptile with evolved sacs of flammable gas, and suddenly fire breath isn't impossible. It's biology at its most terrifying. Medieval maps warn here be dragons on unexplored coasts. Maybe they weren't warnings of fantasy, but honest reports of giant reptiles spotted and feared. Sailors telling tales of sea serpents, island-sized beasts rising from the deep maybe. They weren't wrong. Maybe they saw leftover titans clinging to survival in the hidden corners of Earth. And here, the wildest thought. Maybe humans and dragon-like reptiles lived side by side long enough that the creatures shaped our culture. The hero myths knights, slaying dragons. Gods wrestling serpents could be distorted history. Humanity learning to fight and eventually wipe out the last giants of prehistory. Victory turned into legend. Fossils turned into proof. The memory fossilized in story as much as in stone. But dragons aren't just monsters in myth. They're teachers, guardians, symbols of wisdom. In Asia, they're noble, powerful, even benevolent. What if that reflects another truth, that humans didn't just fear them, but revered them? Maybe they brought rain by stirring rivers. Maybe their deaths provided resources. Maybe, in some twisted way, they were part of the balance. And the bones they're still here, staring at us from museum halls. Children stand under the skeleton of a brontosaurus and feel the same awe their ancestors must have felt when stumbling upon bones in a hillside. It's the same feeling that gave birth to dragons. So what if dragons weren't made up at all? What if they were just the way humans remembered the terrible beauty of dinosaurs? Not through science, but through story. Not with carbon dating, but with fire, wings, and fear. The next time you see a fossil in glass, imagine finding it with no science, no history, just your eyes and your gut. Wouldn't you call it a dragon? And maybe that's the point. Dinosaurs aren't gone. They live in the most powerful myth humanity ever carried forward, the dragon, the beast we never quite forgot.